Have you ever noticed how intelligence isn't always obvious? Some of the smartest people you'll ever meet don't speak the loudest in the room. They don't always try to prove they're right. And strangely enough, they often question themselves more than anyone else. But then there are certain everyday habits, small, almost invisible behaviors that quietly reveal something about how a person thinks. Now here's something interesting. Intelligence is not just about IQ, grades, or how many facts someone knows. Psychologists often describe intelligence as the brain's ability to adapt, reflect, and update its understanding of the world. In other words, real intelligence isn't about knowing everything. It's about how your mind behaves when it doesn't know something. And that's where everyday habits start to reveal deeper patterns. Let's explore a few of them. Number 1, the habit of always needing to be right. Think about someone who cannot stand being wrong. Even when evidence appears, even when the conversation shifts, they hold their position like a fortress. Now here's the paradox. At first glance, confidence can look like intelligence, but psychologists often point to the opposite pattern. Research in cognitive psychology repeatedly shows something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's the tendency for people with lower competence in a domain to overestimate their own understanding, while more knowledgeable people are actually more aware of their limitations. Think about this for a moment. When someone refuses to admit they're wrong, what they're really revealing is not confidence, it's a lack of cognitive flexibility. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and reflection, allows us to revise our beliefs when new information appears. Highly intelligent thinkers tend to do this naturally. They say things like, "I might be mistaken. Let me think about that. You could be right." But when someone treats every disagreement like a personal attack, the conversation stops being about truth. It becomes about ego. And ego is often the enemy of intelligence. Number 2, the habit of interrupting others. Now here's something you've probably experienced. You start explaining something, and before you finish your sentence, someone cuts you off. They assume they already know what you're about to say. This behavior often looks like enthusiasm or dominance, but psychologically it can reveal something deeper. Listening is one of the most cognitively demanding skills the brain performs. It requires working memory, empathy, and attentional control. In neuroscience, this process engages the brain's executive systems, again, largely centered in the prefrontal cortex. When someone constantly interrupts, they're not just being rude, they're revealing an impatience with information. And intelligent thinkers tend to do the opposite. They slow down. They let ideas unfold. They gather more data before forming conclusions, because intelligence thrives on curiosity. Interrupting, on the other hand, often is a sign that the mind has already decided it knows enough. Number 3, the habit of blaming everything on other people. Now here's a subtle one. Some people seem to live in a world where nothing is ever their responsibility. If they fail a test, the teacher was unfair. If they lose a job, the boss was biased. If relationships fall apart, the other person was the problem. Of course, life really can be unfair sometimes, but when blame becomes a constant pattern, psychologists begin to notice something called an external locus of control. This is the belief that everything in life is controlled by outside forces, luck, fate, other people, rather than one's own actions. Now here's why this matters. People with a strong internal locus of control tend to analyze their mistakes. They ask questions like, "What could I do differently next time?" That reflection process strengthens learning circuits in the brain. But when blame is always external, the brain never performs that analysis. And without reflection, growth stops. In other words, intelligence is not just about solving problems, it's about learning from them. Number 4, the habit of reacting emotionally to every disagreement. Think about this for a moment. You express a different opinion, and suddenly the conversation becomes heated. Voices rise, defensiveness appears, and logic disappears. Now here's something fascinating. Psychologists often describe two systems in the brain, the emotional brain and the thinking brain. The emotional brain, centered around structures like the amygdala, reacts quickly and instinctively. The thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, evaluates, reasons, and slows things down. Highly intelligent thinkers tend to have stronger emotional regulation, not because they don't feel emotions, but because they can pause before reacting. They ask themselves, why does this opinion bother me? Is there something I'm missing? But when someone reacts with instant anger or defensiveness, it often means the emotional brain has taken control. And once that happens, rational thinking shuts down. In other words, intelligence isn't just cognitive, it's emotional. Number 5, the habit of mocking curiosity. Now here's a behavior that's surprisingly common. Someone asks a question and another person laughs. How do you not know that? Or they dismiss the conversation entirely. Why are you overthinking this? But here's the paradox. Curiosity is one of the strongest predictors of intelligence. Neuroscientists have discovered that curiosity activates the brain's dopamine system, the same network involved in motivation and learning. When curiosity is engaged, the brain becomes more receptive to new information. That's why highly intelligent people often ask more questions, not fewer. They want to explore ideas. They enjoy uncertainty. But when someone mocks curiosity, they are subtly rejecting the very mechanism that drives intellectual growth. In a strange way, the willingness to say, "I don't know," may be one of the most intelligent behaviors a person can display. Number 6, the habit of refusing to change opinions. Now imagine this for a moment. Someone believes something strongly. You show them evidence that contradicts their belief, but instead of reconsidering, they double down. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. The brain naturally prefers information that supports existing beliefs and ignores information that challenges them. But highly intelligent thinkers train themselves to do something uncomfortable. They seek disconfirming evidence. They ask, what if I'm wrong? This mental habit requires cognitive effort, humility, and intellectual courage, because updating beliefs means admitting that your previous understanding was incomplete. But that's exactly how intelligence evolves. Rigid thinking, on the other hand, locks the brain into outdated patterns, and over time, that rigidity can make someone appear confident while actually becoming less accurate about reality. Now here's the most important insight. If you recognized yourself in any of these habits, that doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. In fact, the ability to notice these patterns may already be a sign of intelligence, because awareness is the first step of change. Psychologists often describe intelligence not as a fixed trait, but something closer to a process, a way of interacting with the world, a habit of questioning, a willingness to adapt. And perhaps that's the real paradox. The people who worry about their intelligence, who reflect on their mistakes, who ask whether they could think more clearly, those people are often doing the very mental work that strengthens intelligence. So the next time you notice one of these habits, in yourself or someone else, pause for a moment, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Because intelligence doesn't grow from pretending to know everything. It grows from the quiet moment when the mind says, maybe there's more to understand. And if something in this video made you pause, if one of these habits felt strangely familiar, you're not alone. Human psychology is full of hidden patterns, and the more we understand them, the more aware we become of how our minds actually work. So if you enjoy exploring the deeper side of human behavior, consider subscribing to the channel. This space is for people who like to think a little deeper about themselves, their minds, and the invisible psychology shaping everyday life. And before you go, I'm curious, which of these habits do you think people notice the most in everyday life? Let me know in the comments. I'd really like to hear your perspective.